How did you make your way into the world of design first, Jack?
Yeah, well, I'll take you way back for this one because it really is kind of a life story more than anything. Finding myself and finding design, I think, kind of went hand in hand. But, if I go back to just really, like elementary school, middle school, high school, and just kind of my academic experience, I found that, I was always kind of okay at a lot of things, right? I could do fine in every subject, but I never felt like I truly excelled in one subject over others. And I actually had this envy for those that did, the kids that were extremely good at math or brilliant writers or, loved science, whatever it was. I was envious of it because it seemed like their path was charted for them. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew what they were great at. They could go major in that thing in college. They could go do that thing for the rest of their career. And I just felt like, I kind of like a lot of these things. I'm okay at many of them, but I don't have one thing that I'm just great at. And so when I went to college, I actually didn't really know what I was going to major in. And I stumbled upon product design. And I took this introductory class in product design. And I very quickly realized that the exciting thing about design was that it was so interdisciplinary. What makes you a good designer is being able to kind of dip your toes into a lot of different areas and then bring them together and synthesize them into something different, something new. And so I kind of went through this journey, and the thing that I had seen as a weakness for, basically my entire time through school, I started to see as a strength. And that was super empowering for me. And, it just made me fall in love with design. And, I waffled on that a little bit. I ended up getting a master's in mechanical engineering because I felt like design was too broad and I needed some technical depth. But that was really what that was the final nail on the coffin, because I quickly realized I was a shitty engineer, but I was a pretty good designer. And so why try to be something I'm not?
Okay, so you realize then you're a pretty good designer and you have this passion and love for product design. How does Snap come about? I heard this was a fun story. How did the Snap start happen?
Yeah, so the pursuing the master's is a good segue because I was in the middle of my master's. I was actually going to need, one summer and then finish my master's program in the fall. But in the course of that, I went and I interviewed at Snap, and I actually interviewed for an internship role. I was going to fill that summer between starting and finishing my master's with an internship. And at the time when I was interviewing, I think it was December of 2013. And so Snap was still a small company. It was probably about 25 people when I was interviewing. I flew down to LA. I went on a walk on along Venice Beach with Evan. And through the course of the interview, he basically convinced me that I would not want to go back to school if I started at Snap. And, the reason I was talking to Snap in the first place was because I saw that they were doing something special. They had recently turned down a major acquisition offer. And that made me think they have a vision, right? That if you're turning down billions of dollars, it's because you know what you want to do. You have a big vision and you're pursuing it. And that really drew me to it. And over the course of this interview, Evan basically convinced me that I wasn't going to want to go back to school after I started at Snap. So, I didn't tell him in that moment that my mind had been changed. I just was excited to get the offer as an intern. But over the course of the next quarter, I accelerated my program so that I could actually jam enough classes in that I could graduate by the time I started as an intern. And so on day one, I walk in through the doors, and within an hour, I'm sitting down with Evan with a few other people who had started that day. And he's asked, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good. Just graduated a few weeks ago, excited to jump in." He's like, "You just graduated." He's like, "Why are you an intern?" I was like, "Well, I didn't realize I was going to graduate by this time." He's like, "Well, do you want to be full-time?" I said yes. And so I was an intern for about an hour. And I think I know for a fact I hold the shortest internship ever in Snap history. And that might extend well beyond into tech history of some sorts. But, I'm very grateful for Evan taking that chance on me, and pretty fun story.
I mean, clearly it was right to take that bet.